Are you feeling overwhelmed, easily triggered, or completely shut down? Yet you also have this overwhelming feeling that you're being left out and left behind, and you have to just keep grinding even though you're completely exhausted? These are key signs of burnout, especially for those dealing with complex post-traumatic stress. So in this video, we're going to explore the 3 stages of burnout and how you can bounce back and build a more sustainable business model. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Marcy Gray. I'm a survivor turned CEO, and I'm your business bestie. As an entrepreneur who has struggled with the effects of complex post-traumatic stress for nearly 30 years, I have experienced burnout more times than I'd like to admit because I didn't know how to take care of myself and recognize my needs. And honestly, because I got caught up in hustle culture, trying to keep up and prove myself. Now, it wasn't until I survived attempted murder that I realized I was doing it wrong. And trying to keep up was actually the reason I was falling behind. I'm going to share with you a completely discouraging statistic, but I promise by the end of this video, I will help you fix it. As an entrepreneur, you are 36 to 50% more likely to experience burnout. But if you are an entrepreneur with complex post-traumatic stress, you are actually 86 to 250% more likely to experience burnout. I know that is not encouraging if you are trying to start a business while healing from trauma, but that is why this video is so important. Because I believe that if you are armed with the truth and all of the information, that you're better equipped to overcome the challenges. So let's talk about the 3 stages of burnout so that you can learn to recognize it before it's too late. So stage 1 is stress and anxiety. And if you're an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, you probably have at least a little bit of hustle in you. You're probably ambitious and have some pretty big goals and dreams. And if you've experienced trauma or struggle with complex post-traumatic stress, you probably feel like you have to work harder in order to achieve those goals. Now, you might also believe that stress and anxiety just comes with the territory. But the truth is, they don't have to. When you experience stress and anxiety, this is a sign that your sympathetic nervous system is activated. This is a survival mechanism that increases the cortisol and adrenaline in your body so that you can survive. And this is an evolutionary function that doesn't know the difference between running late to an important meeting or being chased by a lion. So essentially, when your sympathetic nervous system is activated, the survival parts of your brain steals resources from the other parts of your brain, including the thinking and feeling parts. And it takes a lot of energy to run the sympathetic nervous system. Now, here's what this can look like. So your executive function begins to diminish. You might also feel a decreased ambition and willpower, feeling unmotivated and lacking the drive to pursue long-term objectives. You might find yourself putting off tasks or avoiding responsibilities, even the ones that used to be enjoyable. You might have impaired concentration and memory. You could have a hard time making decisions. This literally feels like you are working twice as hard and only getting half as far, which only perpetuates the stress and anxiety because you feel like you're falling farther behind. And many people think that the only way out is to work harder or turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So an analogy that I like to use is the smoke detector. Imagine you're cooking, but the smoke detector is going off because the pan is burning on the stove. If you catch it in time, you might have a little bit of a mess to clean up and a slightly overcooked dinner, but everything's going to be okay. And worst case scenario, you can just order takeout. But imagine if your solution was to turn up the heat because you think that will make your dinner cook faster. Or instead, you just took the batteries out of the smoke detector because the noise is annoying, but never turned down the heat of the stove. Well, this is exactly what's happening when we try to just work harder through our stress and anxiety. We believe that we have to just work faster and harder so that we can complete the tasks, and that completing the tasks will eliminate the stress. And when this becomes unbearable, we turn to coping mechanisms to alleviate the painful symptoms. But this, again, is like taking the batteries out of the smoke detector because we don't like the noise. But we don't do anything to address the root cause. Now, when we do this for too long, it moves us into phase 2 of burnout. Phase 2 is when we feel emotional overwhelm. Okay, I mentioned this in stage 1, but just to recap, when your sympathetic nervous system is engaged and the survival parts of your brain take over, this steals resources from the other parts of your brain, including your emotional brain. When your emotional brain lacks resources, this decreases our ability to manage our emotions and tolerate different experiences. This is known as your window of tolerance, or your ability to self-regulate the natural highs and lows of life. When our window of tolerance is reduced, we can easily be triggered or experience extreme reactions to everyday experiences because we don't have the emotional energy or capacity to handle them. This is because your brain has evolved to prioritize your safety over your feelings. And the problem is that our feelings are how we experience the world around us. This is where most mental health practices are concentrated. We're all just trying to feel better, but your brain and nervous system are just trying to keep us alive. So here are some signs and symptoms of stage 2 burnout. You might have emotional instability, maybe easily angered or having a short fuse. You might experience mood swings and heightened sensitivity to criticism. You might feel detached from others and experience numbness. You'll have lowered immunity, like getting sick more often. You'll also find yourself neglecting self-care. You'll notice changes in appetite, leading to significant weight changes. You'll be struggling to keep up with work demands and responsibilities. You'll make more mistakes, and you're going to feel like you're less efficient. By this stage, we are noticing that it's not just a time management problem, but there is more going on. And this is where we start to feel like we are losing control. We often fall into a shame spiral for not getting more done, or we feel guilt because we think we are letting others down. And this often turns inward and we begin to feel like we aren't good enough. Now, this is the stage where most businesses fail. It's not a lack of trying. It's not because your ideas were bad or that we're bad at business. It's because this is where most people quit, because it feels like it's not just the business that's failing. They feel like it's a personal failure. So if we look at the smoke detector analogy, if you have ignored the signs of stage 1, you've turned up the burner or you've just taken the batteries out of the smoke detector, by this point, your whole house is filled with smoke. And it's hard to see and breathe, and you don't know where to turn first. And when you realize you've burned your favorite meal that you were looking forward to after a long, hard day at work, you might burst into tears on the kitchen floor or feel sorry for yourself. Now, obviously, this seems ridiculous. Why not just turn the burner off? Why not just order takeout and go for a walk while the smoke clears? However, when you lack the emotional resources because of a limited window of tolerance, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and you lose your ability to think rationally. Now, this is where we get stuck in how we are feeling in the moment, and we don't have the ability to contain the pent-up emotions that don't fit inside this narrow window of tolerance. So even the smallest thing can trigger a strong emotional reaction and derail our thinking brains from creating a solution. This stage can actually last for a long time because we usually fuel it with unhealthy coping mechanisms to help us feel better in the moment in order to meet our short-term needs, but this ignores the long-term consequences. And eventually, if this goes unchecked, our bodies will shut down. And this is stage 3. In stage 3, your nervous system goes into a state known as dorsal vagal. And this is when your nervous system is so overwhelmed, it has used up all of its energy just trying to survive, that it literally begins to shut down all non-vital functions, and you begin to go into a dormant state. This is your brain and body's last line of defense, and it's running on fumes. And in an effort to survive, it begins shutting down and forcing you to rest. This is not depression, although you can experience depression symptoms in this stage of burnout. And this is not a pleasant experience like laying down to take an afternoon nap. Your body's systems are going offline. It feels like exhaustion, and it's scary and painful. Your brain and body are integrated through the nervous system, which means when different parts of your brain are in distress, you will experience the effects throughout your entire body. This affects your physical health, your mental well-being, and your cognitive health. The signs and symptoms of stage 3 burnout are things like complete emotional and physical exhaustion. You'll have a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. You may experience severe self-doubt and low self-esteem. You may experience impaired decision-making. You may also feel a restlessness and an anxiety, an inability to relax, even though you feel powerless to act. In stage 3, physical symptoms will peak. You'll have chronic and unexplained pain and probably some other physical issues. If you will humor me with this analogy of burning dinner one more time, by this point, your entire kitchen is on fire, blocking your only exit, and you have retreated upstairs, climbed into bed, and you're ready to give up. Now, I trust that if your kitchen was actually on fire, you would call 911 and follow the safety protocols they taught us in 3rd grade. However, when we're experiencing burnout, we can't just evacuate the building, because in this case, the building is your body, and we have to put out the fire. If we don't put out the fire, your body is going to do it for you by shutting down bodily functions, which could cause permanent damage. And we do not want that. I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that in just a minute. But first, I want to talk to you about how trauma and CPTSD can impact burnout. When we are struggling with trauma, especially complex trauma or CPTSD, our nervous systems have been running at full blast for a really long time. Our mental and emotional and physical resources are depleted. Our window of tolerance is typically pretty narrow, and it often feels like things are outside of our control and we're at the mercy of our trauma. In fact, most of my clients tell me that this is why they want to start their own businesses in the first place, because they feel like they need to have some control in their lives. And being an entrepreneur means that we're able to work when we want to and not work when we're struggling just to breathe. However, it's important to understand that living with trauma for a long time not only compromises our ability to operate at our best, it also impairs your judgment, and it makes it harder to see the signs of burnout because they're often disguised as other trauma symptoms. So while being an entrepreneur is super liberating in so many ways, and it offers us opportunities that otherwise would be completely out of reach, but it also comes with a whole different set of stressors and challenges that, if not handled properly, can lead to burnout. I am never going to tell you that healing trauma or starting a business is all rainbows and unicorns. Both take work and determination, and both can actually be a lot of fun and incredibly rewarding. I think that when we have complex trauma and we have struggled to access our own resources for a long time, we get to a point where we feel caged, and we have an awareness that we're capable of so much more, and we're ready to show the world what we can really do. But because of living a hard life, we also believe that it means that we have to do it the hard way, that it literally takes blood, sweat, and tears to make that happen. But I want you to know that just because everything in your life has been hard doesn't mean that you always have to do it the hard way. So that's why I use the smoke detector analogy, because it also explains the biggest mistake most people make that leads them to burnout. And the worst part is that this mistake is being taught to us by very well-meaning people, our therapists. So the problem is that we are being taught to cope with trauma and stress. Many of the coping mechanisms we have been taught to use to deal with stress, overwhelm, and burnout don't actually work to heal the underlying cause of these symptoms in the first place: trauma. It's literally like taking the batteries out of the smoke detector because we don't like the noise it's making, but then we ignore the fire burning in the kitchen. So let's talk about what you can do to get ahead of burnout and heal your trauma so that you can build a safe and sustainable business. Okay, there are 5 things that you can do, and if you do them in the right order, can actually help you recover from burnout, heal your trauma, and can actually help make your business burnout proof. And if you hang out until the end, I do have a free resource that'll help you get there faster, I promise. Okay, so let's dive in. First things first, you need to identify the source, aka find the fire and put it out. Chances are the things that are stressing you out aren't the source of the problem. It's not the pile of laundry on the floor, or your annoying and demanding boss, or the people around you. Each of these stressors may be adding to the pile, and any one of them might push you over the edge and leave you crying on the kitchen floor, but they're also normal parts of life, and eliminating them today doesn't prevent them coming back tomorrow. Except maybe firing your boss and starting your own business and becoming your own boss. But trust me, sometimes you'll be just as annoyed with yourself. What we need to do instead is to look at what is causing your window of tolerance to shrink down. Now, the fastest way to identify the real source of your pain is also the hardest part of healing, but I promise it's completely worth it. All you need to do is stop coping. Whatever your coping mechanism is, whether it's having a drink or 2, or doom scrolling social media while binging Netflix and snacking simultaneously, or even taking anti-anxiety meds, even if your coping mechanism is considered healthy, like shutting off your emotions and hitting the gym hard or diving into your work. Now, I am not, nor will I ever suggest stop taking prescription medications, or that you can never have a drink, or that you should quit going to the gym. What I am saying is the next time you're feeling stressed or anxious, sit with it just for a little bit. When you stop trying to mask the pain, you will be confronted with the cause. Yes, this is uncomfortable, and you will feel every single one of the symptoms. Just sit with them. You will feel anxious. You might feel pain. You may feel the need to get up and run and scream or cry. You may experience catastrophizing thoughts, like did you lock the door, or turn off your curling iron, or feed the cat, even if you don't have a cat. These are not real dangers. These are just smoke alarms going off, and your survival brain is trying to get your attention. Just let them pass. Sit there for 90 seconds and ask yourself, what are these thoughts and sensations trying to tell me? It only takes about 90 seconds for your survival brain to assess and process a threat. So sit and breathe and let your brain do the work, and trust your gut when it gives you the answer. You will know it. You may not like what it's telling you, and you might not be ready to confront the issue, and that is 100% okay. But the most important part is that you can identify the source. Okay, The next step is to reset your nervous system. Now, this is actually the very first work we do inside the Survivor to CEO Business Accelerator program, because you need to stabilize before you can strategize. This is very important and also a bit complex, and it varies person to person. I can't possibly teach you everything in just one video, but I do want to give you some actionable steps that you can take today to start the process. Essentially, resetting the nervous system means turning off the survival response and recalibrating the brain and body. One of the most important parts of this is to ensure that your body has all of its physical needs met. When your body is lacking resources, it puts your brain into survival mode. And while most of us are not starving to death or going without food or water for days at a time, you will be surprised by how small the deficits are that cause real functional problems in the brain and body. And this is why we need to start with the basics. So this means food, water, and rest. There is a massive body of evidence on the gut-brain connection, and what we fuel our bodies with has a massive impact on your mental well-being. Okay, water is huge. A recent study found that being dehydrated as little as 2% can cause a 54% spike in depression symptoms if you're a woman. This seems bonkers, but water is life. Dehydration can cause a spike in cortisol and reduce the production of serotonin, which is literally the happy chemical that helps us regulate mood and emotions, as well as some cognitive functions. And serotonin is crucial for sleep regulation, and low serotonin has been linked to depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and even some neurological disorders. So please just drink some water. Next, rest is crucial to preventing burnout and living a happy, healthy life. But did you know that your brain only poops when it sleeps? Yes, I said that your brain poops. Each phase of sleep or rest is crucial for different brain functions. During the calmest phase of sleep with low brainwave activity is when your brain poops and gets rid of its waste. This is important because brain waste breaks down connections in the brain, and it leads to memory loss and limits our executive function. So during REM sleep, or the dream state, it processes information and emotions, which is necessary for processing trauma memories. A good night's sleep is important, and so is giving yourself rest breaks during the day. These rest breaks should not be to sit in front of your computer or scroll social media. This means coming to a full stop on tasks that require a lot of cognitive function, removing yourself from the environment, and engaging in a restful reset activity. Taking frequent full stop breaks can actually make you more productive. So a great tool that you can use for this is NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. There are several guided NSDR videos on YouTube, and I recommend that you just try a few until you find one that you like. Now, in addition to taking care of your basic needs, there are exercises and activities that you can do to increase the activity in the different parts of your nervous system, which regulate different parts of your brain. Now, because our brains are unique, like fingerprints, the regulation protocols will be different for everyone. These may include somatic exercises, bilateral stimulation, neuroplasticity exercises, and other activities. This is where healing trauma is actually fun. And many of these protocols and exercises are actually structured as games. Okay, the next step is to widen your window of tolerance. We do this by increasing your resilience. Now, this is a term often used in psychology for defining our ability to bounce back after adversity. It's often thrown around on social media, and it can be associated with toxic positivity. But it's actually a function of the brain, and you can increase yours by strengthening the connection between your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, and the amygdala, which is the survival part of your brain. Now, a big part of this is taking care of your basic needs, food, water, rest. And we just covered that. But another component of this is routine. Now, I am not talking about structuring every minute of your day. What I'm talking about is reducing the cognitive load and creating a sense of certainty in your nervous system. When your brain and nervous system have a sense of certainty and you're able to do tasks with little additional decision-making or thought, this actually calms your nervous system and it widens your window of tolerance, allowing you more clarity and mental capacity to take on other challenges. So your morning and night routines are probably the easiest to start with, and actually the most important. Now, this is not about having a complicated 4-hour routine with cold plunges and a 10-mile run followed by a 2-hour meditation. These are really simple, and they only take about 25 to 30 minutes in the morning, and there are just 3 things to do at night. I have created templates for these that are optimized for nervous system regulation. So I'm going to leave a link to download the Resilient AF workbook in the description. Okay, the next step in burnout recovery is to regain control of the external factors. Most people make the mistake of trying to start here. These are the things that add up, that push us outside of our window of tolerance. But taking care of the internal factors first will give you the capacity you need in order to tackle the external stuff. So if you grew up in or are currently experiencing a chaotic environment, this can be very taxing to our nervous system's resources. Clutter is a huge contribution to this. Decision fatigue can deplete your brain's cognitive resources, and excessive noise can actually overstimulate your nervous system and narrow your window of tolerance. Cleaning up your environment, delegating tasks, trimming the fat, so to speak, and eliminating busy work will allow you to regain control. Now, this is why super successful people wear the same shirt every day, or some of the most prolific authors literally have a cabin in the woods where they isolate themselves in order to work in peace. I understand you're not going to go buy a whole new wardrobe of Steve Jobs inspired turtlenecks, nor do I expect you to lock yourself away for weeks at a time. However, taking some time in the beginning of your week to set out some outfits or meal prep can actually have a massive impact on your cognitive load. Another approach to this is to strategically plan your week, dividing your tasks by working in your business and then working on your business. Dividing up your to-do list with similar items to reduce how often your brain needs to switch tasks, which is an expensive use of your brain's resources. Now, let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to share my CEO schedule with you, and I can create another video on that. Okay, so regaining control of your external factors may mean that you have to dial back your expectations of yourself and determine your true capacity. And there is no shame in doing less. In fact, you can accomplish more when you do less. Reassess your values and your standards. Do work that aligns with your values. And if it won't get you closer to your goals, eliminate those tasks or at least delegate them. You can also embrace the 87% rule. So the 87% rule is basically a reminder that it's okay not to be perfect. When you start a task, the initial effort yields the most value. This is the concept of the 80-20 principle, where 80% of your results come from the first 20% of your effort. However, as your efforts continue towards 100% all in, beyond the 87% mark, additional effort results in diminishing returns, with more work producing fewer noticeable benefits. Most people can't tell the difference between your 87% and your 100% quality. So striving for perfection often goes unrecognized, and it can lead to dissatisfaction and deplete your cognitive and energetic resources. Okay, lastly is step number 5. This is where we turn the volume back up with good stress. Good stress, also known as eustress, is the kind of stress that fuels energy and motivation rather than draining you. It's the excitement and the challenge that comes with positive, meaningful activities. Good stress can help you stay engaged and productive without tipping over into burnout. Things like exercise and physical activity is a great source of good stress. It boosts endorphins, it improves mood, and it helps regulate your nervous system. Now, another form of eustress is actually social connections. Now, I get it. If you're an introvert, this doesn't sound like good stress, but spending time with friends and family can provide emotional support and reduce feelings of isolation. Positive social interactions are crucial for maintaining mental health and resilience. You can turn up the good stress of tasks that may not be your favorite with deadlines and gamification. Setting realistic deadlines and then breaking tasks into manageable chunks can create a sense of accomplishment and motivation. Gamifying tasks, like challenging yourself to empty your email inbox before the dryer goes off, can make work feel less like a chore and more like a game. Good stress is good for motivation, and it allows your brain to allocate resources in a way that actually refuels you instead of draining you. So by focusing on activities that align with your personal strengths and needs, you can build resilience against burnout. Now, this is all about doing more of what you love and less of what drains you. This is also about adding value to the world around you and working louder, not harder. Look, burnout is not a badge of honor. Hustle culture is harmful, and working the hardest isn't the key to success. That is why I created the Survivor to CEO program. It is an anti-hustle business accelerator program, and we are dedicated to help you launch and build businesses that are sustainable, that align with your values, and help you grow. I do a few free coaching sessions every month for survivors who are just getting started. There's no pitch, there's nothing to sell. It's just open office hours so that you can get your questions answered, so that we can help you regain control of your brain, body, and get you back to business. Now, I left a ton of valuable resources in the description to help you overcome burnout and help you get back on track. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips. I hope this helps. And if you want to learn more about building a safe, sustainable business while healing from trauma, Watch this video over here.